Hello, I'm Marcus Boston, and today I would like to talk with everyone about an issue that is really, really important. And so, for you all who are not familiar with me, I am a birth trauma or birth injury attorney. I represent babies and families who babies who have suffered a traumatic brain injury, namely the injury HIE or hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. And so, for this talk today, it's going to be a lot different than what I normally do with my educational videos. The focus of this video today is going to be on moms, and it's going to be on the mental or the trauma aspect that mothers can have in this situation. And so I thought that this was important to talk about this because, I get emails and I talk with mothers, and this is a very specific issue that I think that comes up. And I've been very fortunate today to have my brother, Dr. Quintin Boston, who agreed to take some time out of his day to come and help us unpack some of these issues. And so, with all that said, Quintin, I'm going to go ahead and quickly turn it over to you so you can give a little bit of background about yourself and why this talk needs to happen.
Well, first off, thank you for having me on, Marcus. Again, as Marcus said, I'm Quintin. My background, I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor in the state of North Carolina. In addition, I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor supervisor in North Carolina, as well as a licensed professional counselor here in the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. In addition to that, I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor as well, and I teach. I'm associate professor. I teach rehabilitation counseling also. But the topic is very important because it's a mental health topic. It deals with individuals of color. And so anytime that you can have professionals on talking about issues, mental health issues or issues centered around disability, related to individuals of color, persons of color, or mothers, it's always an important topic.
Yeah, and so to kind of help narrow it down and to let the people who are watching and listening, to let them understand, like I said earlier, a lot of times we will have mothers who will contact us, and they have questions about that part of it. I just recently had an email. This is an example of a person who reached out, and this mother and this family, they were struggling in the sense that the mother was having a hard time accepting that their child has a traumatic brain injury and that their child has an HIE diagnosis, and that because of this diagnosis and trying to accept that diagnosis, that, things like adoption and just not even really wanting to go on further with their life because of this aspect. And so what I would like you to speak about, Quintin, first of all, is, do mothers, is there help? Where can individuals that are in this situation, where can they go? I am an attorney, and so I can work on things from that end, from, trying to help get resources for the baby, for the family, to be able to help, with treatments and things like that, holding the hospital, the doctors and nurses accountable for what they, in certain situations, if they have caused the injury. But can you talk about that other aspect of where can families go? Maybe they don't even want to talk to an attorney, but where can these mothers and these families, what's out here for them?
Well, a lot of times it's a lot to uncover here, but there's one point I want to hit first. And the first point is disability. That's the first aspect. You're talking about an HIE diagnosis. That is a disability. And unfortunately, we still have not gotten to the point in society where there's a real understanding of how disability impacts individuals and what resources are available for persons with disabilities. So not only is there that mental health piece that's going to affect the family as a dynamic, as a whole, but you now have an individual that has a disability, and because of the societal views of persons with disabilities, lack of understanding with regards to an individual with a disability living the best functional life that they can live in society, that's something in general that causes a lot of hesitation when individuals find out that either there is a disability in the family, because this is an onset issue now, because the child or the mother has a child now that is disabled, and the mother, let's just say, for example, the mother or the father, they are not disabled, okay? So they're not accustomed to dealing within the disabled community or looking for resources for persons with disability. So that's the first thing that has to be addressed, that the disability, I'm going to use this terminology, but and for a long time it was looked at, if a person had a disability, or if there was a disability, it was almost like a death sentence in for a long time, because there was nothing available for persons with disabilities. And so now a lot of that has changed with different programs that are available for not only families but also individual providers, knowledge to be able to help these families. So I want to just go ahead and put that out there, that it is a disability now, and the disability is impacting the makeup of the home. Now, as far as the mothers, there are resources available, such as, let's say, for example, if the mother works, Marcus, if the mother has a job and the mother works, in most instances, there is EAP, employee assistance programs, that are tied to these jobs, that it's a service through human resources a lot of times, that employers have for employees. And with EAP, there are counselors that contract out through that do work for EAP programs. So that's a resource there that a mother may or may not be thinking about, that if she goes to work every day and the actual job has an EAP program, employee assistance program, and therapists a lot of times are a part of EAP programs. In addition, insurance. And so if the mother has insurance, a lot of times also insurance will pay for a certain number of sessions that a person can have to go and get help from a mental health provider. So if they're working, you have the EAP that they can go through with their employer, or if they have insurance, they can go and look for a provider, mental health provider within that network, and also get resources and services that way.
Okay. All right. And that is very important, because I think that when families contact me, a lot of times they don't even know where to go. They don't even know who they can talk to. And so, like you said, EAP is important, and insurance, that insurance aspect of everything. Now, I want to also quickly move over to what type of mental health professional should these individuals be looking at? I mean, and we are talking, of course, we're saying individuals of color, black people, but even in that standpoint, a lot of these issues do impact a lot of people in general, just communities in general, because of the traumatic nature of this event, specifically on the mothers. And we know that in the Black community, there can be some hesitation,
Right.
speaking out and reaching out to the mental health professionals. Do you want to talk about that aspect a little bit? I mean, because other communities have challenges too, but us being Black men, we specifically know that there are challenges that are in the Black community, specifically, for Black mothers or for Black fathers or partners. Do you want to touch on that aspect a little bit?
Well, I think one of the things that it's a preference as far as the person who's looking for the services. A lot of times you can identify what type of therapist or what provider are you looking for? Are you looking for a psychiatrist? Are you looking for a psychologist? Are you looking for a mental health counselor? So a lot of times the individual who's seeking out the services they can look and see what type of provider are they actually looking for. And in some instances, if they have insurance and they're able to go online, if they have that availability resources, go online and they can filter and they can look, they can search for African American psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health counselors. They can search that. And so there are individuals who can provide these services. It's just a lot of times the person has to know where to go
Where to
look.
go. Right. And so that's important to know, because like you said, we know that, just from a historical standpoint, there has been some hesitancy. I don't know if you want to talk about that, some hesitancy of Black individuals, reaching out to that segment, to your segment, I would say.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it had to do with for a long time, African Americans, Blacks, we were not in these spaces, or we were very limited as far as the number of Black psychiatrists, the number of Black psychologists, the number of Black mental health counselors, rehab counselors. We were limited, but we are beginning and we are starting to fill up the professions as best that we can, by applying, getting a bachelor's degree, moving forward, applying to professional schools, PhD, MD, master's degrees, because remember, this provider has to have a master's degree or higher. So when you're looking for a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist, you're looking for someone that individual is going to have a master's degree or higher. And so when you start looking, you understand why it becomes very limited, because the majority of people in the population don't even have a bachelor's degree. So when you start going up higher, those numbers begin to shrink. So if you are already within a minority group, which we are, same with lawyers, I'm sure, which we are, as you start going up and starting to look for providers and they have these credentials, it's going to be limited. But we are out there. We are there. We're looking. We're ready to serve. And so it's all about the person understanding that they can pick and they can choose the provider that they want to help them.
And like they feel comfortable with, I guess.
That they feel comfortable. And so, and I want to touch on something else. It depends on what the person's looking for. So you have this psychiatrist here who is a physician. This person is a physician. They can prescribe medication, and also they can do mental health. And then you have your psychologist here, who is an individual. What I like to say, this person is an expert in psychological testing, different psychological assessments. They are experts in that area, but some of them also do provide mental health counseling. And then you have your general mental health counselor, which is predominantly we will provide mental health, not as much experts as far as psychological testing, because again, that's reserved for a lot of times for the clinical or the counseling psychologist. And then you have the psychiatrist who prescribes medication, which the counselor does not do, which the psychologist also does not do. So it just depends on what that person is looking for. But then you also have this group out here that a lot of times I think we kind of forget about, which are rehabilitation counselors. And so you have rehabilitation counselors like myself, who's also a licensed mental health counselor. And I say this because when you think about rehabilitation counseling in its purest form, rehabilitation counseling, this person is an expert on disability and work, but they're an expert first on disability and work. So when you think about a person or a mother that is looking for services, if it were me, a lot of times I would say, man, if I could find somebody that understands this disability aspect, as well as this mental health aspect, you almost have two in one. You have
Right.
this rehab counselor here who's also a licensed mental health counselor. And remember, Marcus, what you talked about a little bit earlier with this HIE diagnosis, this diagnosis isn't going anywhere. So
Right. That is true. That is true.
that means that if there's a partner in the home that's
Yes.
out working,
Yes.
okay, that means they're on a job, okay? But remember, there's a disability at home. So now you're thinking about how is this disability now impacting this person at work? And so you have this rehab counselor sitting out here that's an expert on work and disability, that for a lot of times, if you can get your hands on a rehab psychologist, a rehabilitation counselor who's also a licensed mental health counselor, I think that's a very good way to go, because this person will understand the aspect of what this disability is going to look like as this person continues to develop, as well as the real possibility that these mental health, this disability has now shown itself in a work setting, which can, or which may or may not impact in a positive or impact in a positive or negative way. So I think that's something that we have to keep in mind and think about as well.
And with all of that, do you have any specific websites or information that, you know, the mothers or the families that are watching, that they can either look up, or, you know, is there a centralized place that they can
Yeah,
start? What would you suggest?
yeah, what I would suggest, a lot of therapists are on what we call Psychology Today. A lot of
And that's a
therapists,
website, I'm assuming,
that
right?
is a website, yes, Psychology Today, where a lot of therapists pay to have their profiles up there. So this is a central place. You can find rehab counselors, you can find clinical mental health counselors, you can find psychiatrists, you can find psychologists, because their credentials are all there. And in a lot of instances too, the individual has a profile. They have a
Mm-hmm.
profile picture. So if that person is saying, look, I'm looking for a Black mental health therapist or clinician to help me with this situation, you can filter your search
Mm-hmm.
on Psychology Today. I would also add too, because I talked about the a rehabilitation counselor as well, that I think can be somebody that can really, if they do rehab and mental health, the commission, the Certified Rehabilitation Counseling Commission, CRCC, is also a website that you can go and look at. And on there, you can find a rehab counselor. And a lot of times what happens is, like myself, you have your credentials are there. So you see that the person has a CRC, and they're also, they could also possibly be licensed. So Psychology Today, the commission, CRCC, is another place, two places where I know that if you're looking for providers or individuals who are out here doing this work, then those are two places I know that you can do those with a simple search online. But again, also too, remember, if they're working, you can go through your EAP, or if you have insurance, you can also go through that to search as well.
Okay, Quintin, that was a lot, and I'm hoping that the people that are watching and listening, that this has been able to give them some direction. I think that this is a very important topic, and it's like I said earlier, it's kind of a very specific, you know, subset of society that is dealing with this. We know that there are, of course, mental health issues that individuals can have. But this one, a lot of times, is brought on by a trauma
Right.
that starts from the birth of a child, and, you know, mothers are having to have these conversations, and are thinking and processing a lot of this, and for a long time, you know, you don't find a lot of information on this. You don't see a lot about this, you know, coming from this specific angle of a mother who's had a baby who has had a traumatic brain injury. Before, because we're on the end of everything, and I'm going to also, if you want to know where this video is going to be located, I'm going to actually put this one up on our other website, HIE resource place. I'm not putting it up on my law firm's website because this is it's not really on that end. This is just general information to help and possible resources for mothers or for families, partners who are dealing with this. Before we go, Quintin, do you have any other helpful information or tips or anything else for these mothers or for these families who are dealing with this?
Well, and again, like I said, thanks for having me on today. But I would say that disability is not what it was 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. There are a lot of resources now because the child is going to grow, the child is going to develop the best way the child can. And depending on that, there are professionals, like I said, rehab counselors, mental health counselors that can help these families adjust the best way that they can and have that child as functional within society as they can be, as far as independence. And but disability is a real sensitive topic
Yes, it is.
in
It's a very sensitive
society.
topic.
And the mothers or the family, the partners don't have to feel as if there are not individuals out here that understand what they're going through and can help them work through the issues and the situations that they have. And you said something about it being, Marcus, a very specific. And I think that is very important to understand that, what you all are doing, this is not going to get you on the front page of the newspaper. It's not going to get you on CNN. It's not, because it's a very specific population. But when you think about it, it impacts society as a whole, because the disability community is actually the largest minority community in the country. Okay, so you have to keep all of that in mind as we process
And when
all
we're
of
saying
this.
minority, we're not just talking about skin
We're
color.
not
We're
talking,
talking,
right.
it's a global
It's a
community.
global community, but it's a very specific community, because if you're not, or if you don't consider yourself, or if you're not disabled, you're not going to think about it. But the mothers and the families have to understand and know that there are providers like myself, other individuals who are licensed or certified as well, that are willing and able and ready to step up and help them as much as we can.
Quintin, if individuals, if they wanted to find you, I mean, where can they find you? If they wanted to look you up online and learn more about you, where can they go?
Well, they can go to www.bvcrehab.com. That's www.bvcrehab.com. And again, it's we offer a wide range of services centered around disability, vocational evaluations, vocational assessments, expert testimony type of work. Or if you're looking for, an actual counselor, an instance too. And I also forgot to add this as well. You can Google your state's licensure board. And you can on the state licensure board, every state has a mental health licensure board.
Okay.
And you can search on that board. And just like, for example, if somebody search my name in North Carolina on there, it's going to come up on the website, Quintin Boston, licensed clinical mental health counselor, licensed clinical supervisor. If they're looking for someone at me, or they're looking at a name in the District of Columbia, they'll see it on there, Quintin Boston, licensed professional counselor in the District of Columbia.
Okay, and you said something else too that I think is very important too. And I know we were running short on time, but I want you to kind of also talk a little bit about about finding people who are truly qualified to talk and to help with these spaces. Because like I said, a lot of times these mothers, after, essentially you're finding out that your baby, was, did not have enough oxygen, almost, suffocated or did not have enough. And that is now giving them a brain injury that's going to be with them for the rest of their life. Speak a little bit about finding people truly qualified to be able to give you help in this area.
Well, I'm actually glad that you caught that and brought that up, because on Psychology Today, everybody's licensed, licensed clinical mental health, licensed clinical social worker, psychologist, psychiatrist. They're there. If you, as far as certified rehabilitation counselor, it is the commission. It is everybody on there. When you search, has a certification and it's in good standing. Let me add that it is in good standing. When you look at the licensure boards, for the different state, whatever state this mother is in, and they want to maybe go and say, look, I'm in Indiana or I'm in Florida and I want to find out who's licensed in the state of Florida. When they go to those states' websites and they put in a zip code or put in an address, and all these names start popping up, everybody that is on that website is licensed. And if they're not licensed, if their license have lapsed, or that you click on their name and it shows if they're in good standing, if they've had disciplinary action, it shows right there. And if they're going through their insurance, then everyone that's paneled through the insurance, they've been vetted already. So their credentials have checked out that they are in good standing and that they are licensed. But that is also very important, Marcus, to make sure you're talking to the right person, someone that can help you get through this, because these are serious clinical issues here.
Yes, yes.
And I don't want to belittle other professions, but you need someone who understands disability and someone who understands clinical issues that they're going through. And so with that being said, you want a licensed professional to help you through this process. Also, too, because remember, the licensed professional is held to a certain standard. And if they're not doing something ethically correct while working with these families, they can get in trouble. I'm glad you pointed that out. Yes, the Life Psychology Today, the licensure boards, CRCC website search, those individuals are there, and they're licensed professionals.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Quintin. I used to say, I know it's Quintin to me, but Dr. Quintin Boston, because you do have your PhD. And so thank you for coming in and talking about this. And like I said, I will have this video up. And if you're watching this video, like I said, a little about me, I am a birth trauma, birth injury attorney, but the issues that we've talked about today, if you know a family or you know an individual that is going through something like this, and this, like I said, this is outside of having to hire a lawyer or anything like that, but this is just a family or a mother or partner, and they're dealing with this, please share this video, share this, give this video, let them look at this video, because this information, the resources that were provided, the breakdown of the different types of mental health professionals and what their specialties are and how they can assist. This information is valuable, not only to the Black community, but to all communities. And so, you just don't have to be Black that's looking at this. This information is good for everyone. All right. Again, thank you very much, Dr. Quintin Boston. I'm Marcus Boston, and enjoy the rest of your day.